In 1 month and 1 day, I'll be standing on a different stage than this. I'll be graduating with my master's degree from UTD. I'll also be graduating with a concept, an idea that I have been working on for the last few years, but I think it especially took shape during my program here. This idea is Neurochem Lab. And at the core of this idea is my field of study of neuroscience, which defines an idea as the emergence of a certain brain activity coming from your memories, your perception, and your imagination. In simpler terms, it's how your brain makes meaning from your experience. Now, if you told me that I'll be having this experience 4 years ago, I wouldn't have believed you. Being abroad, doing my master's, it seems unreal. Because back then, I was doing my undergrad in chemistry. That's where the chem in Neurochem Lab came from. We were also in a pandemic, and we didn't know if life would be normal again. But during the pandemic, I started having an interest in reading psychology books and getting to know human behavior. But I noticed that I was more interested in the science part of it. And while exploring deeper, I realized that there's an entire field dedicated for studying the brain. And this field is neuroscience. So it felt like I found a treasure. So I started reading books about the brain. I started reading academic articles. I started listening to hours of podcasts and watching free YouTube lectures on, about neuroscience. And it didn't really feel like it was studying as much as it felt like I was learning about myself. Because in a way, I did. And that was the start to what eventually will lead to this concept of Neurochem Lab. So I'm going to walk you through 4 significant elements that I found that really made a huge contribution to make this concept. The first element is obviously passion. I became really passionate about it. I even started a social media account just for neuroscience. And I wanted to just connect with people who talk the same language as I do and who were interested in the brain. But I also started sharing content about what I was learning. And I realized that people were interested in learning about their brains, and they wanted to learn more about it. And I myself wanted to learn more about it. So I decided to apply for a scholarship that I came across. And this scholarship is called the Fulbright Scholarship. And I presented a case for them. I told them, like, hey, I'm passionate about this. I saw a gap in people's knowledge, and I think I want to do something about it. And I got in. And I traveled from Lebanon to the United States to do my master's here. And you can imagine a passionate graduate student coming to a new country, doing something that he likes. And I wanted to get a hands-on experience. And I wanted to be in a lab. So I reached out to a professor, and I got into their lab. And they were working on rodents and researching rats. And I didn't like it. I didn't. So, but that really made me insecure. Like, am I not passionate about neuroscience anymore? Like, did this passion just fade? So, but then I realized, like midway during this internship, that it was just a game of positioning, right? I was positioning myself in the field of neuroscience, which is great. But I was positioning myself in a place that I didn't belong to, that I didn't feel connected to. And as I thought about that, and I thought, like, where do I want to be in neuroscience? I just got back to the original story before I even came to the US, the case that I presented to the scholarship to get in, which is to teach neuroscience. And even in my social media work, like I was sharing content, I was doing webinars, I was talking to people about their brains, and I wanted them to learn about their brain. So when the semester was over, I didn't reach out to be in the lab again. And I thought I really want to do something about like neuroscience education. I wanted to build something that can help people learn about their brains. But I didn't know how at the time. So you see, like the concept wasn't really full. It was, I had the passion, I knew where I wanted to be in the field, but I just didn't know like how. I needed to plan. I needed to strategize. I mean, you could easily say that you can just put on some slides and some program and do a webinar and hey, that's neuroscience education. But that doesn't feel right for me. I mean, I see neuroscience, I see the brain as a story. I see that there's so much beauty in it that putting it on a slide is not fair. So I still was just trying to figure out like how can I create an learning experience to teach people about the brain. And in one of my classes, the professor was basically, he showed us this slide, and he said that there's a region in the brain that looked like a seahorse. And then immediately, another passion of mine popped up. Storytelling, fictional world building, educational characters. And in a way, these two passions merged. Like the passion for neuroscience and the passion for storytelling just combined. And this led me to create. I mean, I obviously had to go back to the definition of an idea. I had to look into my memories, what I liked as a child, my imagination, my perception of what students actually like how they learn. And it led me to create Happy the Seahorse, which is a seahorse character that is inspired by that region in the brain. And I saw this as an opportunity because not only now I can teach adults about their brain, I can also teach children. So Neurochem Lab, like maybe it isn't for adults alone, maybe it's also for children. And this led me to write stories that could have learning objectives inside of them. So one story that I want to share with you guys is that, for example, Happy the Seahorse needs almond to make an almond milk for his coffee. So the students have to go to this magical almond forest under the sea. But then on the way there, they are attacked by a megalodon. Now they are presented by two decisions. Should they transform the submarine into a fighter and fight the megalodon, or should they run away? Most students say that they want to fight. So, but looking back at this, if you look closely, you can see learning objectives. Because the almond forest symbolizes an almond-shaped region in your brain that is called the amygdala, that is responsible for a response called the fight or flight. And in a way, learning objectives are just inside the story. But still, it didn't feel that the idea was there. I mean, yeah, I have now the plan, I have the strategy, but it's still something didn't feel right. Because as I was just thinking about it, and as me and you here are looking for our purpose in life, my character was also looking for his purpose in life. And during the time, to be honest, when I was creating Happy the Seahorse, I myself, I wasn't happy. Because my people back in Palestine were going, and are still going, through unimaginable suffering and horrors and pain. So I thought, like, I felt helpless, and I didn't know what to do. It felt like I only had this. But again, I only had this. So maybe I can do something with it. So I reached out to a school in Gaza who were facilitating online sessions for students there and students who evacuated to other countries. And we were able to facilitate the stories I was just telling you about. And it's a tradition, after every lesson, we have this storytelling writing exercise. So they were writing a story, and then Muhammad, who's the kid in the center, it was his birthday. And so they wrote an entire birthday party for him, and they added all these visuals. And it was honestly one of my favorite moments in the programs, and like a virtual birthday party between real and fictional friends. Also, one student, Abdullah, he shared that neuroscience education helped him understand his stress and know how to deal with it. I'm gonna pause for a moment so you can just skim it over. But yeah, an eight-year-old saying the word amygdala, that's where I knew that this is Happy's purpose. This is Neurochem Lab's purpose, is to help disadvantaged children and families with stories and with neuroscience or science in general. Because isn't that what the purpose of education? Isn't it just about hope, to give hope for those who need it the most? So when I graduate in 1 month and 1 day, I hope to expand this work and reach more families and children who need stories and science as a way of hope. So now and I think in terms of networks, and I really want to share that there's so much brain cells working right now at the moment in your brain. Billions forming trillions of connections. And inside those connections, you have these stories inside of you. There's an area related to your passion. There's a network for where you feel you want to position because you need something. And then you plan because that's the way you want to solve this problem. And there's a purpose with it. So my message or simple takeaway for you is just know that inside of you, there are so many stories that are just waiting to be read by you. And these stories, they might be scattered. It might not be like this beautiful network. This doesn't really happen. And even now with Neurochem Lab, there's so many things that I feel like there's to improve and to do. But you have so many stories, and the convergence of these stories is your story that you can find yourself in. And the product is your idea and your concept that you really want and you really need. And you love it because you see yourself in it, and you look at it and you see that it's just a projection of you and an extension and another dimension of who you are. And I think that is something that when people look at it and they see you in what you do, and then they love it. So to make an idea, for people to love it, you just have to love it first. And to find out what this idea, you just have to look inside all your stories and figure out how they piece in together to create a product. Because going back to the definition of an idea in the first place, I said it 3 times already, but it comes from your memories, your perception, and your imagination. Thank you.